Hi, everybody. Glad to have you joining in on this webinar with Tourism HR Canada and Baxter Media. This is the Propel Student Work Placement Program. Our presenters today are Joe Baker, Director of Tourism HR Canada, and Rachel George, Project Manager with Tourism HR Canada. I'm your host, Zephin McMillan, Virtual Events Coordinator at Baxter Media, and today is Wednesday, October 19th. Be sure to stick around for a Q&A session with Joe and Rachel at the end of this webinar. They'll be answering pre-submitted questions, and if you have any new questions you'd like to ask, please type them into the Q&A section of the public chat box, which you'll see to the right-hand side of your screen. Just beside the chat box there. If you have any questions, again, feel free to put them in there, and we'll get to them at the end of the session. This is a live session, so your patience is appreciated with any technical difficulties that might arise. And we are recording this webinar, so a copy of the recording will be shared with all registrants within about 24 hours of the call. So you should get that tomorrow. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Rachel and Joe. So take it away. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Zephin. It is a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for having us. To our guests today, hello and welcome to this webinar on the Propel Student Work Placement Program. I hope you're having a good week so far. Thank you for taking the time to join us and for your interest in this program. Before I introduce the agenda for our presentation today, I would like to take a moment to share a land acknowledgement on behalf of Baxter Media and Tourism HR Canada. While this event is virtual, we would like to acknowledge that across Canada, we are meeting on lands that have been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. We acknowledge that our office is on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, whose presence here reaches back to time immemorial. We also recognize the Algonquins as the customary keepers and defenders of the Ottawa River watershed and its tributaries. We honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this beautiful territory and uphold and uplift the voice and values of our host nation. We invite all attendees to join us in meaningfully and thoughtfully acknowledging the oppression of lands, cultures, and the original peoples in what we now know as Canada, and to consider how we can each move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Our presentation today will be a high-level introduction to the Propel Student Work Placement Program. We'll start off with a 2-minute video clip on Propel. And after that, I will be handing over to Joe, who will lead us in an introduction and how you as a student or a post-secondary institution can participate in this program. You will discover what's in it for you, where you can find placements in this industry, what steps you could take to get involved, and some information on the eligibility criteria. We'll end by showing you a Propel success story video before we then move on to a Q&A session at the end. As much as we're trying to keep this session as simple and brief as possible, we do recognize there is a lot of information for some of you, and you might have questions for us, which we would love to answer as best we can at the end of the presentation. If you do need additional clarification or we're not able to cover all the questions today, we will also have an email address on the slide at the end for you to reach out to us anytime. All of this information can also be found on the Propel webpage, propelcareers.ca, as well as other additional resources that are available. Great, and with that said, let's now watch a short Propel video.
The Propel Student Work Placement Program is a new initiative to help the tourism and hospitality sector recover from the devastating impacts of the pandemic. It is powered by Tourism HR Canada and funded by the Government of Canada. Propel creates a direct link between post-secondary students who are looking to enhance their workplace skills through work-integrated learning opportunities and employers who can provide valuable experience while also showcasing a multitude of career pathways in the industry. Students will get paid hands-on learning and mentoring with special consideration for underrepresented groups, and they will have opportunities to develop the work-ready skills required to secure meaningful employment in the tourism and hospitality sector upon graduation. Employers will acquire much-needed early talent interested in working in the industry and will be provided with a wage subsidy of up to $5,000 for each student hired through the program. Post-secondary institutions will be the bridge, complementing existing work-integrated learning programming and connecting students with hundreds of workplace opportunities across Canada. Propel is open to domestic students enrolled at recognized post-secondary institutions and registered Canadian businesses, startups, and not-for-profits related to the tourism and hospitality sector. There has never been a better time to explore work-integrated learning, and there has never been a greater need for new talent. Apply now for fall, winter, and summer semesters. Visit propelcareers.ca to get started today.
Great, thank you. And now I'll hand over to Joe.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Hi, everybody. Thanks again for committing some time today to learn a little bit more about Propel. Just wanted to start in terms of setting some parameters for what's happening here today. The Propel Student Work Placement Program is funded by the ESDC, our federal government, and Tourism HR Canada has a responsibility to make sure that we use the ESDC criteria to adjudicate applications from students, from post-secondary institutions, and from employers to make sure that we can subsidize wages for those students who are pursuing some element of work-integrated learning within their field of study. So I know that that's a lot of ground to cover, but I just wanted to make sure that we have an awareness of how this program works. And now we'll get into some of those details. So if you are a student here with us today, and you are enrolled in a post-secondary institution, usually a college or a university across this country, though there are some exceptions, including the Cégep system in Quebec, and you have some element of work-integrated learning in your program, and that's a key. So there are lots of different kinds of work-integrated learning, but those that are kind of most common include cooperative education, field placements, work experience. If any of those things are a part of your program, then you are eligible to go work for an employer who can access wage subsidies through this program. So our call to action ultimately is for students to go into our portal and apply for work integrated learning opportunities. So we've been engaging with many employer partners. The employer partners also access our portal and they post opportunities very much like a job. So the portal is very much like a job bank, a job portal. So it's something that you'll need to get used to. And as students, you go in and you apply for work integrated learning opportunities. So as with all kind of job searches, it's really best that you understand what you're looking for, what region you're looking for, what kind of organization you're looking for, what kind of job, what kind of role, what kind of position, what you're passionate about, and then apply to a few opportunities that really resonate with you. At some point in that process, if you are a student or if you are a faculty member or anybody in an academic institution supporting students going through this process, the students do need to provide proof of enrollment in the program and proof that their program has some component of work integrated learning. I mean, that's not high priority at this stage, but it is something that you do need to be aware of. And then, like everything else we do in the academic world, we encourage you to complete those placements, get through it, go through the experience, learn as much as you possibly can, with the ideal outcome being that when the placement experience is over, that could be immediately close to when you're graduating, or that could be a little bit before when you graduate, that you are really taking this opportunity to evaluate whether you want to stay in that organization and whether you've made a really positive impression on the people you're working with so that you have a place to work post-graduation. So the whole idea here is that you're getting hands-on experience in the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry. And you may have experienced already, if you're a student and you're navigating through your program, sometimes there are placements in industry that are unpaid. Usually that's centered around a practice within the industry. If the industry has very tight margins, they may not have the capacity to pay for placements. Well, that's what Propel is all about. Propel provides wage subsidies to employers so they can pay you to do your placement. So the good thing is, if you meet the Government of Canada's eligibility criteria, then the jobs and the work integrated learning experiences that you are applying for are all funded through this program, which means they're all paid. So extra incentive for you to look for your work integrated learning experience through Propel is that the only opportunities that are posted are those that are paid opportunities. Of course, you gain valuable knowledge while going through this experience. And ideally, what we're working on, especially with our employer partners and our academic institution partners, is that the placements are aligned with your school semesters. So we know that you have a fall semester, a winter semester, and a spring, summer semester. And those are also the times that we're encouraging our employer partners to post opportunities so that they are in sync with your learning experience. And that's what work integrated learning is all about, really. It is about learning in industry, and you're integrating that experience in the workplace. We know that the schools that you're a part of right now have incredible faculty, incredible facilities, incredible resources to support you, but you can't stay there forever. You got to get out there and you got to get that experience in the industry. Work integrated learning is really an opportunity to extend everything you've learned in the classroom, in your labs, in your academic institution, and get you right out to industry, because it's a very dynamic industry. It's a very exciting place to work. And we really think that once you get in there for that work integrated learning experience, you'll catch the tourism bug and you'll want to stay with us for a very long time within your career. So where are the placements? This is a very high level and then a very immediately in the weeds kind of answer to that. So when we talk about the tourism industry in Canada, and we as an organization are Tourism HR Canada, we represent the over 2 million Canadians who work in the tourism industry in this country. There are 5 subsectors of the tourism industry: the accommodations, which is hotels, resorts, motels; food and beverage services, restaurants, quick service, fine dining, catering facilities in some cases; recreation and entertainment, events, festivals, sports; transportation, the airlines or motor coach organizations; and travel services, ultimately the places that you can be working that help people book their travel experiences. Could be a commercial setting, could be a personal setting, but those 5 subsectors make up the tourism industry. And it's a very broad industry. We have more than 200,000 individual businesses that all come together and make up the tourism industry. The exciting part about that is there are thriving tourism businesses within communities all across this country. So wherever you're dialed in from today, we can guarantee that there is an active tourism industry within your local community, close to your college, your university, or wherever you're pursuing your studies. Now, you can imagine with an industry as broad and as varied as ours, it's the work experiences, the work integrated learning opportunities that are posted that are ultimately what you're applying for. So that could be a role in events, could be a role in live music, could be a role in meetings and conventions, museums, galleries. There's a whole world of cultural heritage tourism, but also destination marketing, research, sustainability. The list goes on and on and on and on. So again, ideally, you're going through your academic program. You've really started to learn about the industry. Maybe you're super advanced and you're dialed in and you know exactly what you want, but just keep in mind that this is a very broad industry. Take your time to understand what is really important to you. Get on our portal, take a look at those posted opportunities and get out there and have an amazing work integrated learning experience. So how do you get started? So this is a really great question. As you may experience, if you have friends, family, colleagues who are attending different academic institutions across this country, everybody does it differently. So some schools, some faculties have dedicated people embedded in the faculty. Maybe there's a career office right in your faculty of hospitality and tourism. Or maybe you're in an institution where the career services office is a centrally organized place. And in some cases, getting really detailed, there can also be dedicated cooperative education offices, and you might be enrolled in a program that has a very specific cooperative education component. So you have to do a little bit of research. You will know already if you are enrolled in a program and it has some component of work integrated learning in it. You already know, and there's probably a professor or a program coordinator or a chair or a director or an associate dean or a dean encouraging you, saying, get ready to go on your placement. Well, that's exactly what we need. We need you to take that initiative to go and look for that placement. So our portal is powered by a company called Outcome Campus Connect. It's actually run by a company called Orbis. You might see a logo that says Magnet in it. Outcome Campus Connect is a digital platform that's already in many institutions across this country. So, and some of those institutions have proprietary systems, so there might be a specific name for it, but it's out there. If you can't get in that way, we always encourage you, go to apply.propelcareers.ca, log in, and then at that point, you're creating a job seeker account. Just like I mentioned at the beginning, this is really a job platform, but the experience that you're looking for here is work integrated learning, but the entire thing is meant to be a simulation to prepare you for job searches that you'll have to do for the rest of your career. So you are a job seeker. So you need to create a job seeker account, and you need to really start building out your profile. Who are you? Where are you? What does your CV or your resume look like? What's your credentials? What are you interested in studying? What are you interested in pursuing? And then you get to go into that portal and apply for those paid opportunities. Now, that last point is interesting. There are many academic institutions across this country who ask the students to go find their own placements because they're encouraging you to take that initiative and to really establish your own process and figure a way to get out there. You don't have to apply for a placement through Propel to be eligible for wages that are paid by an employer who receives this subsidy. You can definitely go out, assuming you meet all the eligibility criteria, you can go out yourself and tell an employer, hi, have you ever heard of the Propel program? If you hire me on a placement, you can access funding that will pay my wages up to 50%. I mean, every employer in the hospitality and tourism industry would be excited to hear that. So you can also apply for paid placement opportunities on your own. And even some of our academic partners have done extra effort to say, we don't really need to use your system, but we're definitely going to promote it to our employers. And employers have already gone into our system and they've been pre-approved for wage subsidies. So there are a lot of different ways that you can find your way into work integrated learning experiences that are funded through Propel. So if you need one reference point, go into apply.propelcareers.ca and create a job seeker account. That's your one key takeaway. Everything else you need to know about this system, you can figure out along the way. So who qualifies? So we are excited to see the number of students who are enrolled in this webinar today, an information session today. We need to go over these eligibility criteria. So remember at the beginning of this presentation, you heard me say this is a program that is funded by the federal government, by the department that's known as ESDC. They establish the eligibility criteria, and then every one of the delivery partners who delivers this program needs to abide by those criteria. So these are not, unfortunately, at this stage, anything that we can change or influence. These are the eligibility criteria as set by the Government of Canada for the Student Work Placement Program. So starting off, for the moment, this program is a program that is eligible for students who are domestic students or a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or refugee protection has been conferred under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. For the moment, that means that international students are not eligible for this program funding. So if you are an international student and you're tuned in, we're really sorry that we can't extend this opportunity to you. Just know that in future iterations of this program, we have done our level best, along with many of our other partners, to ask the federal government to reconsider that eligibility piece, because we know how important international students are to this country, to this industry. We highly value you. We know how hard you're working to be here and to get through your studies. Unfortunately, for the moment, this program does not apply for you, but do not be discouraged. We know you're persistent. We know you're great at persevering. Continue to be relentless and find your way into a great work integrated learning experience through another means. Students do need to be legally entitled to work in Canada in accordance to relevant provincial or territorial legislation and regulations. You do need to be registered at a recognized Canadian post-secondary institution in a program that includes a work placement. So you heard me talk about that at the beginning. Those institutions tend to be colleges and universities, or the CEGEP system, if you're listening from Quebec today. Generally speaking, that means that people who are enrolled in private career colleges aren't eligible for this funding. And again, that registered, recognized Canadian post-secondary institution is a list managed by ESDC. And so that can be something that you can go and look up on their website as it relates to the student work placement program. And then you do need to be enrolled in a program that has a work integrated learning component. So again, as mentioned, there are actually 9 different kinds of work integrated learning. That's a definition and a framework we use from our partners at CWIL, Cooperative Education and Work Integrated Learning Canada. You should know that you have some element of work integrated learning in your program. But if you don't, it'll say something like co-op or field placement or internship or externship or work experience number of hours required before graduation or placement or any of those practicum even. Those are all different elements of work integrated learning. So you have to be in a program that has an element of work integrated learning in it to be eligible for this funding. Again, as Rachel sort of mentioned at the top, we know we're hitting you with a lot of information. All of this will be sent to you post this information session, and you can find out all the information that you need at our website, which is propelcareers.ca. Every single thing that we talked about today and more is on that website. And ultimately, there are tools there, there are resources, there are PDF documents, there are video guides, lots of resources, and you can find contact information, and we'll also share that with you as we move forward. And so I've done a lot of talking. What I just wanted to do is play another video of some people at various stages in their careers who have been really touched and impacted by work integrated learning and how it's meaningfully impacted their careers. Because yes, we're talking about a lot of process today, and yes, we're talking about a lot of detail, but ultimately what's happening here is between your academic institution and our government partners and Tourism HR Canada, we are helping you bridge your learning experience from the college or university you're in into the industry that you're going to spend, the next number of years in. And the whole idea here, that's why we called it Propel, is that we want to kickstart your career. We want to help you really find your way and find a path forward so you can move out of the institution that you're in into a really incredible dynamic industry. So you've heard lots from me. Rachel will come back on as well after the video so we can answer your question. But for the moment, just kick back and listen to some of our other colleagues and stakeholders who've had some really meaningful work integrated learning experiences.
Hello, my name is Celine.
My name is Kevin.
My name is Marie.
Hi, my name is Jason.
The hospitality industry is a growing industry with endless opportunity and the perfect place to start a career.
Work integrated learning truly is the time for you to get out and have a new opportunity and try something different that you normally wouldn't.
One of the main things that drew me to the hospitality industry was the human connection aspect.
I had the privilege of learning from exceptional leaders. I saw day in and day out them leading and demonstrating by example.
I think that this opportunity is really good in terms of the people that you get to meet and people you get to stay connected with afterwards.
The camaraderie that you get through doing a program experience like this, with people going through the exact same moments as you are, it really bonds you together.
There's so many people who worked in small towns, people who worked at ski resorts, people that worked on beach resorts, city line, people who always worked in event centers.
The level of pride that they take in providing guest service and how dedicated they are to their jobs have just really inspired me throughout my career.
Being truly hospitable isn't something you can learn in theory. Only by working in the industry and with different people, you can become more successful.
I think who I was prior to this program and afterwards is a big difference.
Many of the people that I worked with at the hotel are still friends today, and
it truly has opened limitless possibilities for me.
So there you go. You've heard a little bit about our program. We've given you some of the key details. We've given you some details in more detail, and we provided a little bit of an overview from a perspective of understanding what the program is all about, but also people who've gone on to have great success in their careers as a result of work integrated learning. Before we answer your questions, just wanted to make sure that you take note there. You can email us anytime at propel@tourismhr.ca or visit our website, as mentioned earlier, propelcareers.ca. We know that everybody's dealing with a different circumstance, has different questions. We can't always get to every single question and understand every single detail or nuance over an information session, but we did want to let you know that we are making ourselves available to you, and you can reach out to us anytime so we can help you navigate through this process. So with that, I will invite my colleague Rachel to jump back on the line. And if you have any questions, I suppose, feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll do our best to answer them.
Thank you very much, Joe. And thank you all for listening in and staying with us through this presentation. We're excited to hear your questions if you've got any. And I believe Zephins might be able to help reach out, share or read out some of the questions you might have submitted at registration. So over to you, Zephin.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Once again, folks, feel free to share your questions in the Q&A section of the chat if you have any new ones. I'm going to get at the questions from the registration forum here. So first one right off the bat, do you need tourism experience?
Great question. And no, absolutely not. We recognize that you are coming into a work integrated learning experience looking to gain some of that on the job lived experience. So you don't need tourism experience to go through that program. The other thing is you don't necessarily need to be enrolled only in a hospitality and tourism program. Maybe you're enrolled in a business program or an accounting program or a marketing program or HR, anything like that. You can still apply for the opportunities that are through Propel because the hospitality and tourism industry has so many different elements to it. It's not all necessarily the roles that would jump out at you when you're picking your field of study in hotels or restaurants or culinary or baking or events or anything like that. So we also encourage lots of people from lots of different backgrounds to go on and look for these opportunities. And we've had much success really expanding the horizons and getting students who haven't necessarily studied hospitality and tourism to get into careers in our sector.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that answer. So the next ones I feel like we've kind of answered in the presentations, but so feel free to kind of give a more cursory answer. But is there any requirements? Are there any requirements to apply for this program? And what are some of the examples from those who experienced the program?
Yeah, so the only requirements are the eligibility criteria as determined by ESDC. So if you go under propelcareers.ca you will see all of the eligibility criteria right there. And they're very much a reflection of what we covered today in this presentation. Assuming you meet the eligibility criteria, there are no other requirements for you to go into the system and apply for an opportunity, get into a business, and to have your work integrated learning experience. So that answers the first part of the question. What is the experience of the people who've gone through it? I mean, the experience is as diverse as the industry itself, and the experience is diverse as our student body itself. People have gone into large hotel operations. People have gone into small, independent tourism operations. People have gone into restaurants. People have gone into the event space, all kinds from all different geographies. Remember, this program is available anywhere in the country to any student who's enrolled in a registered post-secondary institution. They don't even have to be in a tourism program. So the opportunities are really varied. And I would always encourage you, the first thing you need to do before you start applying for these opportunities is do some real soul searching. What do you like to do? Where do you want to work? What kind of work do you want to do? Where do you not want to work? Eliminate some locations, eliminate some opportunities. Make sure that what you're looking for is something that you're genuinely interested in, right? Because in some cases, some academic institutions have work integrated learning experiences that are as long as an entire semester. Could be 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 weeks long. You're going to be in that work integrated learning experience for the duration of that placement period from your program. So you need to make sure that at the very least, on your hardest day, you still have that passion that gets you out of bed and gets you working towards achieving your goals, completing your placement, and launching your career.
Thanks again, Joe. And can we work remotely?
Can you work remotely? Yes, you can, if there is a remote opportunity available. So our employer partners, who we've been working with for almost 2 years now, and the academic institutions who have connected us with their employer networks, they're really the first player here. They go into the system and they apply for these wage subsidies and they post these opportunities. The opportunities that are posted are the only opportunities that are ultimately available to you to view in our system. So if there are some conditions that tourism and hospitality employers are hiring remote work integrated learning experiences, then yes, you can absolutely apply for them. For the most part, though, of course, you probably know this is a pretty hands-on industry. There's lots of face time, and most of the experiences are person to person. Most of the experiences are embedded within the operations of our industry. Hotels, restaurants, any element of transportation, live entertainment, those kinds of things. So for the most part, the positions are face-to-face. And quite frankly, it's probably something you need to get used to, assuming that you're safe and healthy and vaccinated and all those things, then that's really where your career is going to start off, face-to-face, in person.
Thanks, Joe. What happens if I'm graduating soon? Would this opportunity no longer be available to me once I graduate?
So if you are graduating soon, these opportunities are not available to you because you are not enrolled in a program with an element of work integrated learning. So if you have completed your work integrated learning component, or you're enrolled in a program that doesn't have a work integrated learning component, then yes, you would not be eligible for this. That being said, if you are close to graduating and you studied hospitality and tourism, I can tell you that there are lots and lots of employers looking to hire really talented people who are coming right out of the education system. So make sure that you spend time with your careers office or your professor before you graduate, or your program coordinator or chair or director or dean, anybody at that academic institution that can steer you in the direction of opportunities. But the ones that we have posted through our system are for those students who are actively enrolled in a post-secondary institution that has some element of work integrated learning. And your experience needs to be in sync with the time that is allocated for that work integrated learning placement as a part of your program.
Okay, so question in the chat. If I am deferring for a semester to work and gain experience, am I still eligible to work through Propel during that deferred semester?
So if you are deferring a semester, then you are not engaged in the academic delivery of the program. So the short answer to that is no, unfortunately, at this point. If you are deferring to gain some work experience, then those opportunities would not be funded by Propel. But again, I would go back to the same thing. If you're taking some time out of your program to go gain some work experience, there are a lot of employers out there who are looking for really talented people right now, and I'm sure you won't have a difficult time having your selection of places to work. But once you are back, and if the program that you're in has a work integrated learning element that you haven't completed yet, then you can absolutely come back and look in Propel and find an opportunity.
All right, thanks, Joe. So final question. Again, I think this might have been answered through the presentation, but feel free to answer it again if you'd like. Maybe let me phrase this a bit differently, I guess. Can you give just a kind of a general idea of what opportunities are available in this field generally?
Sure. So think about it from the perspective of the 5 different subsectors of the tourism industry. So there are accommodations, which include hotels, resorts, motels, those kinds of operations. There are food service spaces that include restaurants and maybe banquet halls and catering. The quick service, which is the coffee and takeout kind of places. There's the full service sit down restaurants. There's the fine dining restaurants. Those different kinds of places. Transportation, as mentioned, maybe the airlines, maybe a coach line, a bus line, maybe a train. If I could do it all again, I'd go do my work integrated learning experience at the Rocky Mountaineer and figure that out. There are also travel services. So there are companies out there who book corporate and personal travel for other people. Lots of experiences there. And then recreation and entertainment. And usually that ends up being live music, concerts, festivals, sporting events that have some element of tourism. So those are all broad umbrella groups within the tourism sector. Each one of those industries has its own type of jobs. There are lots of customer, guest, client facing opportunities. But then again, you could be studying a program that's in the culinary arts and you'll be in a kitchen. You'll be working with a chef or a sous chef or something, So there are lots of different opportunities. The best thing we can say is spend time building out a really robust profile for yourself as a job seeker in our portal, and make sure that you go and look at as many of the opportunities as you possibly can. Do some research, ask your friends, ask your family, ask the people that you're in class with, your professors, your colleagues. Where are you working? What's the industry all about? You know what's really cool? I like to design things. Is there a creative element in this industry? And that's your driving force. When you know what you're looking for, then that will pull you towards the right kinds of opportunities. But this industry is really big, spans every part of this country. And within each one of those little ecosystems are a bunch of tourism-based businesses and nonprofits, all opportunities for you to look for exactly the kind of work integrated learning experience that suits your needs and suits your career goals.
All right. Thank you so much, Joe. And thank you both to Joe and Rachel. Any final comments here before I wrap things up?
I'm just going to say thank you. Thanks everybody for your time, and pass it over to Rachel just to wrap up.
Thank you. I just want to echo the same thing as Joe. Really grateful and thankful that you are here and for your time to join in this webinar and hear about the program. We're delighted that you're interested in here in the program, but also perhaps in the tourism industry and career opportunities that you can find out there. And we're excited to be part of that indirectly through Propel. And yes, definitely want to thank you and thank Baxter Media as well once again for having us and for hosting this webinar.
Thanks so much. Well, a final thank you to Joe and Rachel. What a great presentation. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Before we go, just a real quick reminder that if you'd like to subscribe to Baxter Media's publications for industry news, it's a great resource for students as you sort of kickstart your careers, as you launch into what's after school. So there's a link at the top of your chat box in yellowish orange there that says subscribe. So feel free to click on that link and subscribe to travelpress.com and all of our Baxter Media resources. We also have a LinkedIn page. You can follow us there at Baxter Media. And our Travel Press has a Twitter page, and we're on Facebook as well. Yeah, again, this webinar recording will be available on Baxter Media's YouTube channel, and we'll be sending the link to each of you within 24 hours with links to these videos and also a couple other resources from Tourism HR Canada. So yeah, thank you again for being here, everybody. We're so glad to have you. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.